We found Organic Ocean about 12 years ago. You know, when we put Organic Ocean together, it was right when the 100-mile diet book came out, and right when it was kind of, you know, back then it was not a trend, but it was you know, the catchphrase was know your supplier, know your food comes from, that kind of thing, right? And we jumped into that. We're the fishermen and we go straight to the kitchen. My first customer is one of my best friends now, is Chef Robert Clark. Back then in the day, he was at Sea Restaurant. About 12 years ago, he came out spot prawning with us, and he's like, I want these prawns for my restaurants. I said, sorry, chef, they're all going to Asia. He goes, that's bullshit. So that winter, we came up with the Spot Prawn Festival, myself, Rob Clark, and the Chef's Table Society. And it was geared towards the chefs, but it turned, as you guys know, to be this crazy time of the year for all of the people of Vancouver. And that first year, we had 1,000 people here. We're expecting 100 chefs. We had 1,000 public here. And unfortunately this year, because of the pandemic, we had to cancel the Spot Prawn Festival, but last year I think we had 5,000 here. The spot prawn has become the most celebrated ingredient ever across this country. We personally weren't, like the boat I was working on at the time, because, and not, they weren't selling to Asia them, but in general, the industry was geared towards Asia. So all the prawns are packed in a 1 kg box head on. It's all about presentation. You open it up and it looks nice and all that for the sushi bars, and that all went to Japan. And in the last 10 years, that's actually shifted to China. But when we started, Rob Clark and I started this, I think you could probably fairly say like maybe 1% of the prawns actually stayed home. And I could say, you could fairly say now that at least 20%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 20% staying at home, or 25%, whatever the number is great compared to where it was 12 years ago. Well, the COVID-19 was interesting because, first of all, we delayed the season. Our season traditionally opens the first Thursday of May, and market conditions warranted, hey, we can't open this thing now. I mean, all our restaurants we sell to in Vancouver were all closed at the time, the first week of May. So it got delayed until the first week of June. And that's basically about the same time when restaurants were allowed to open up here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver. The big one out there for me was, and for a lot of people was, will the public come out? Because the public's still being told to stay home and avoid crowds and that kind of thing. And we're thinking, well, how many people are going to come down and line up in a big frenzy for spot prawns? It was mind-blowing. It was completely the opposite of what even I thought, and I'm the internal optimist. There was hundreds of people here that first full day, which we've seen here before, but in the midst of a pandemic, it was a shocker. But what was even more of a shocker was out in Steveston, in Richmond. Some days there were 600, 700, 800 people lined up there for spot prawns, and that's never happened in Steveston. They never had a real spot prawn frenzy in Steveston before. This year, it was there. And it was a combination of people trying to get out, I think, support local, get the heck out of the house. You know, they've been locked up for 2 months. Get out and celebrate it and start celebrating local food and supporting your local producers. And I was just telling someone the other day that we've always talked about local, support local. This year, it means something. It really does. It's local, local, local.